I'm Laura Franz from the Design Department, and this is Typography Tips for PowerPoint Presentations. Today I'll be focusing on organizing information and choosing a font. When creating a PowerPoint presentation, I recommend organizing information through text placement and pacing. One way to do this is by creating a mind map. A mind map will help you to show connections between information or between data. It will also promote anticipation instead of allowing your audience to read ahead. When people read ahead on your slides, when they get to the end, their mind tends to wander. A mind map also requires that you use less words, and as an author, that requires you to have more clarity of understanding of your topic. Less words also helps to prevent information overload. Finally, a mind map will help you to visually expand ideas, much like I did here with the subtopic of less words. Speaking of less words and preventing information overload, we can also take a look at this presentation if I had set it as a bulleted list. There's a lot more text, which can be a bit overwhelming. Even if we only use the small amounts of text I used in the mind map and create a bulleted list with them, we start to lose the visual organization and the relationships between the ideas that we have in a mind map. On to choosing a font. When choosing a font, I recommend that you look at two things. One, the feeling of the font, and also whether or not the font can do the job. Feeling really relates to how a font looks. We have three very broad ways of talking about how a font looks. One is whether it's serif. A serif font will have these extra marks at the ends of the strokes. A serif font feels traditional and established, which isn't surprising because our earliest publications and printed pieces were set in serif fonts, and in fact serifs go all the way back to ancient Rome when serif letters were carved into stone and marble. Another very broad category for how a font looks is sans serif. I've been using a serif font throughout thus far, but we can change it to sans serif and see the difference. Sans serif fonts do not have those marks at the end of the strokes. They are without serifs. They tend to feel modern, clean, and strong, which isn't surprising because they became popular in the late 1920s and early 1930s. During a time of technical change and advancement. In fact, contemporary corporations that want to feel modern, strong, and clean will often use a sans serif typeface in their logo. The third broad way of talking about how a type looks or feels is display fonts. Now, display fonts were purposely designed to draw attention to themselves. So when you use them, your audience will pay attention to how the font looks. Perhaps you might want them to pay more attention to the ideas you're presenting. So if you don't want them to pay too much attention to how the font looks, I recommend not using a display font. Next is, can the font do the job? One thing to look at is whether or not the font has the styles and weights you need. Does it have an italic? You might need that for creating subtle emphasis or perhaps highlighting the names of titles of books and films in your presentation. You might also need a bold, which would allow you to create strong emphasis to make things really pop out. Also, you need to make sure that a font works. Does it work on a Mac or on a PC or even on any computer that you use? If a font is too unique, like a special display font, it might work on the computer you set your presentation up on, but then not work on the computer you use to actually present the presentation. So I recommend you use what we call a safe font. Safe fonts are safe because we expect them to be on most computers. In the serif category, Georgia, the typeface I've been using throughout this presentation, is a safe font. So is Times New Roman. Times New Roman was designed for a newspaper. It's a little bit narrower, so if you find you need to fit another character or two on a line, Times New Roman might be a better font for your job. In the sans serif category, Verdana, which I've been using throughout this presentation when I used sans serif, is a safe font. as is Arial and Trebuchet. So these 5 fonts are all safe, which means that they will work regardless of the computer that you're using. And in addition, they all have italics and bold, so they'll probably be able to do the job for you. I hope these typography tips will help you the next time you set up a PowerPoint presentation.